Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. I'm pregnant and my husband has been sleeping with my mother. Plus update. I 26 female, found out my husband 30 male, is hooking up with my mother 52 female, and I honestly don't know how to react. I'm 4 months pregnant, and I'm trying not to stress since it's bad for the baby. I honestly had suspicions about my husband cheating. When I announced my pregnancy, he seemed happy, over the moon actually. He was kissing me and telling me how lucky he was to have me, but now he changed. About 2 weeks after my surprise announcement, he stopped hugging me and kissing me like usual. He stopped eating the meals I'd make for him after work and said he already ate some fast food or something. I also noticed he had changed his lock screen, which was a picture of us, not sure if that meant anything to be honest. I found out 3 days ago. I went through his phone while he was in the shower and found text messages, videos, pictures. I'm sick to my stomach thinking about what I saw. I saw pictures of my mom in lingerie, and he was replying with pictures as well, showing how turned on he was. I even saw a message of regret. He had said that maybe they should stop since he didn't want to hurt me, but my mom said I wouldn't get hurt as long as they kept it all a secret. But what angered me the most was the message she sent a few days ago. I'll quote it here so anyone reading this can get an idea of how serious their affair is and has been. I love you so much, more than you think. You've helped me through the passing of my beloved ex-husband, and for that I truly thank you. I know it is hard for you to keep a secret like this, for me it is too. I love my daughter with all my heart, but she will have to accept eventually that love is love, and that the heart wants what it wants. Our hearts want each other. I thought that ever since my husband died, nobody would ever love me because I'm just an old woman, but you have shown me to love myself, and made me feel young and sexy again. Let's keep having fun and cherishing each other. I think it's important to know my father passed away about 5 years ago from a stroke, and my mother said she refused to get back into dating or romance because my father is her forever love, and only. It's absolute BS. I'm freaking crushed, and it's the fact that I know they hooked up after that message, because that was the night he didn't come home until 1 in the morning due to work and paid overtime. I actually threw up after reading that message. I have screenshots of the messages and have sent the videos to myself. Of course, I deleted them on his phone so it looked like he never sent me anything. But I'm numb. I'm confused. I'm hurt so bad. I can't even cry because I refuse to believe it. My husband is at work while I'm sitting on the edge of my bed writing this. Any advice, please? I'm desperate for just a little bit of anything, really. This baby in me is honestly the only thing preventing me from confrontation. I'm afraid that confronting them now will cause too much stress and anger, and I want the best for my child. At this point, all I want to do is have my baby. Christmas is soon, and I don't want to ruin it for the family. I had also planned on announcing my pregnancy to everyone that day. Please help me. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Contact a lawyer. Organize your finances. Map out a game plan. If there is someone you can trust, maybe move in with them. Don't keep this to yourself. Once you know what you're going to do, leave or kick him out. Let everyone know what has been going on. Do not let them get away with this. Get a lawyer and get full custody or primary in place. Your mom and baby dad are gonna fill that kid's head up with BS. Protect yourself. Any lawyer will gleefully take your case. You even have proof. They are both disgusting and do not love you as they claim. Expose both of them and see how strong their love for each other is. Do not keep their secrets. But before confronting, first talk to a lawyer. This is a massive betrayal, and I am sorry you are going through this. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row. But seriously, your mom sounds like a terrible human being. Your husband sounds sorta like he was getting manipulated by her. Not saying he doesn't suck, but that mom seems manipulative as hell. Wow, your mother loves you with all her heart, yet she's sleeping with your husband. You don't need that witch or that lowlife husband in your life. Just break free and be happy with your baby. With all her heart. She never specified how much heart she has. And now for the update. Thank you all so much for the support. Really, you don't understand how much it means to me to see so many strangers online wishing me well. Around 2 hours ago, I confronted my husband when he came home from work. I told him that I know everything. I showed him the pictures and messages. At first he denied it, but when I showed him the evidence, he started crying. Actually crying. He had the nerve to cry and get on his knees while holding and caressing my stomach. He told me that I would be a bad mother if I left him, and raised my child without a father, because a baby needs a dad in their life to fully grow mentally and physically. I honestly don't know what to say at that, except that it's pure BS. I told him that I was contacting a lawyer in order to file for divorce. I had already packed my things before he came home. I'm currently staying at a local motel about 30 minutes away from my home. I've asked my cousin if I can stay with her for a few days, and she agreed. I'm getting everything sorted from there. My husband has been blowing up my phone with messages and apologies. He's told me that if I take him back, he won't do anything to hurt me ever again, and he will cut all ties with my mother. As for her, I've also confronted her. I messaged her once I got to my motel. I told her I was pregnant and that she will never get to see her grandchild. She has not responded yet. I have also moved all my finances that I had in our shared bank account to my personal savings account. You don't understand how grateful and appreciative I am for the support. I apologize that I could not reply to all the personal messages I've been receiving as well. It's been hell. I'll try my best to update if my mother does end up replying to me. Again, thank you all so much. Next story. Update. My 37 male, son 21 male, slept with my girlfriend 32, and I don't know how to process this level of betrayal. Original post. I apologize in advance if this isn't the most coherent thing in the world. This is partially just me venting to the void. About 4 years ago, I lost my wife, the mother of my son, to lung cancer. We had been together since we were 14. It was the darkest time in my life. I had considered ending it all on a nearly daily basis. I pushed on for my son, and because my wife made me promise to make the most of life. We had our son pretty young. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, and thankfully was able to provide a decent upbringing until he moved out at 16, although I still paid, and continued to do so until this happened, a portion of his bills. The loss was extremely hard on my son as well. He came back to stay with me for a while, and we'd work through the grief together every day. I got him into therapy, pushed him to get involved in things to keep his mind busy, and when he moved back into his apartment, I'd call every night to check on him and visited multiple times a week. We were always extremely close. My wife told me outright after her diagnosis that she didn't want me alone, so I made myself available. My girlfriend and I met about 2 years ago and hit it off. She isn't my wife, but I loved her for who she was, and we really connected. I was reluctant to introduce her to my son because I was afraid he'd feel I was betraying his mother, so I held off for the first year, which I regretted as they ended up getting along very well. We'd hang out together, my son was happy, I was happy, and she moved in with me about 5 months ago. This past Thursday he was over for dinner and movies. We've had this little game since he was a teenager where I'd pop up over his shoulder when he was on his phone in common areas and say, "Stop looking at that," in an accusing way to mess with him, even though he was never looking at anything. Turns out this time, he was doing something, and I saw topless photos on his phone. I recognized the photos to be of my girlfriend, same tattoo placement between the breasts. I grabbed the phone from him, and he immediately starts pleading his case. I go into gallery, and there are easily 24 photos of my girlfriend, some of him I'm assuming he sent to her, 1 or 2 of them together. By this time, he's crying and trying to grab the phone back. I check his texts and he has 2 weeks worth of conversations with her under a different name, detailing the fact they've been fooling around behind my back. My girlfriend is in the room begging to know what's going on. I'm not proud of the fact that I lost myself. I screamed at them both. I smashed the phone. Yes, I know this is unacceptable. Yes, I'm in therapy. Yes, it's the first time I got aggressive with either of them. Then I demanded details. My son kept apologizing and saying he didn't know why and that it had only started 2 weeks ago. They slept together 3 times. My girlfriend was sobbing and kept trying to hug me, telling me it was a mistake, purely physical, and that she'd never speak to him again. I screamed at my son that I'd given my life to him, that he knew what this meant to me, that he was all I had left. I pulled him upstairs and gave him the money for his phone, and kicked him out. I went upstairs to our bedroom, turned her drawers upside down and packed her clothes into 2 travel bags while she kept asking me to listen. I put them outside, guided her through the door, and told her she could have someone else get the rest of her belongings this week. Both of them have been texting me nonstop until last night, at which point I blocked their number. I feel completely detached. The fact that after 2 years, my girlfriend, knowing my history, could betray me is painful enough, and absolutely nothing will make me forgive her. She refuses to get her stuff until I talk to her, so I'm having a friend drop it off to her. The fact my son, who I dropped everything for, worked nonstop to provide for, who was all I had left in this world, could do this to me, knowing what it would do, is another pain entirely. It feels like I lost another family member. I ache for my wife all over again. I know everyone processes grief differently, but this was 2 years after her passing. He had a girlfriend and I was there for him as were therapists, every step of the way, so I have a hard time believing grief is the cause of his decision. I can't see this as a mistake. He didn't trip and fall. It was a conscious choice to betray someone who loved him. I want to honor my wife by giving my son a chance to hold on to the little family I have left. But this isn't like he stole money from me. It isn't even something that happened once while drunk. He was there for that grief with me. He knew how hard it was for me to move on. Of all the women, he chose mine. All the apologies or future effort can't erase that fact or the memory of it. I never did wrong by him, and now I feel like the kid I raised isn't there anymore. Thanks to friends, I'm not drifting into thoughts of self-harm again, but I don't know if I have it in me to ever forgive him. If and when that day comes, what steps can I take to process what happened? Do I talk to him without feeling disgust and open the door to trusting him again? And if that day never comes, does that make me a bad person? Edit some brief clarification since people on the other relationship sub took this and ran with it. 1. Nothing caused him to move out. He asked and said it'd be cool, and I helped pay his bills. No hidden resentment I've ever been aware of. 2. Yes, popping up over his shoulder sometimes was something we both found funny. No, I wasn't actually trying to invade his privacy. Yes, he was a part of the joke. 3. Yes, I know I was aggressive. I paid for the phone and we'll be discussing it in therapy. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I am so sorry this happened to you. I think you handled things pretty well, all things considered. Obviously, your ex is somebody you should ever speak to again. Your son is 21, so he was making adult decisions, and this did not just happen once. I would honestly give this a lot of time, and probably some counseling to figure out where you want to go in terms of your relationship with him. Thank you. I know in my heart I want my son in my life. I don't think it's possible for me to stop loving him, but I don't much like him right now, and unfortunately my mind isn't in agreement with my heart. I'm not sure I can forgive this, but I hope that with effort and time, the rawness will at least fade enough to allow us to move past it and create new memories together. When I cool down enough, I'll suggest joint therapy to him, as I know I'm not ready to discuss it calmly without a mediator present. And I also expect him to inform his girlfriend of what he did, or I will, as she was also betrayed and deserves to know. It's going to be a long road, and my get up and go has pretty much gotten up and left by this point, but I'm trying to be optimistic. My uncle got in a terrible divorce, and to cope, began dating a girl who was aged closer to me. Over several months, she had been coming on to me, and when my uncle and her had an argument, she tried getting me to sleep over for a night. I was clearly aware of what the risk, my relationship with my uncle, also damaging his well-being, and benefit, sleeping with one girl was. Your son should have been able to comprehend the significance of his actions too. I would question him on this because he willingly jeopardized his relationship with you and struck your well-being. Now for the update. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for the enormous outpouring of support. I've had numerous people offering to their well wishes privately, and such compassion from those who commented. I believe it was this support, as well as that from my friends, that kept me from doing anything stupid. I'll try to keep this as concise and short sentenced as possible. It's been a busy couple of days to say the least. I unblocked both their numbers shortly after posting. My now ex called again that night, which I answered. I told her if she wasn't calling to make plans to pick up her stuff, I was hanging up, and we decided on the next morning. I called a platonic female friend of mine that night, and she agreed to be at my place before my ex showed up as a witness. I had everything packed up and waiting by the door. She showed up as expected and started crying immediately when I came out with her stuff, trying to pull the bags to the ground so I'd have my hands free for a hug. I put the bags beside her car and asked her to check if I missed anything, which she refused. I agreed to a quick hug, told her to take care, and walked inside. My friend then pulled the chair she was sitting in on my porch over so it was in front of my door, and told her that she was calling the cops if she didn't leave. She did, and I blocked her number again. I texted and called my son numerous times, and left a voicemail telling him that we needed to talk, but first he had to come clean to his girlfriend and accept responsibility for his actions. He didn't respond, so I called her myself. We chatted for a while, and she told me he was out with a friend. I asked if he had spoken to her about anything recently, and she said no. So I told her myself. Mostly because I felt it was the right thing to do, as she was a victim in this too, but I'll admit partially because he's a grown man now and needs to deal with the consequences. He showed up to my place that evening, and I let him in. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't nearly as calm as I hoped I'd be. He asked if ruining his relationship made me feel better, and I told him that he ruined it. Pretty much any hope of productive conversation went out the window, and it became a screaming match, at which point I told him to get out and figure out how to deal with being as alone as I was. He slapped me in the head. This is a kid who never even threw a toy out of anger in childhood, who wasn't even spanked. And as disgusting and twisted as it is, this exploded into a physical fight, with me being struck in the face multiple times while trying to restrain him as I didn't have it in me to hit him. My son very much not being a fighter, while in my younger years I very much was. until I took him off his feet and held him to the floor. I've never felt that level of rage before, how incredibly overwhelming it was. When I saw the fear on his face, I led him up and sat beside him on the floor. I told him to get out. He started crying and told me that his mother would be ashamed of him. This made me break down, pathetically so, and realize how messed up this whole thing has been. I agreed that she'd be ashamed of both of us, and we hugged while he cried into my chest, something he hasn't done since my wife passed. He asked if it was too late to talk, and I told him it wasn't. I cleaned myself up, we sat at the kitchen table and talked. He told me that he'd stopped therapy a while ago and lied about it, because he felt it wasn't helping. He told me that he was hurt when I kept my girlfriend from him the first year, because although he knew it was to prevent him getting attached if it didn't work out, he still felt excluded. It came out that he hid a very well-concealed alcohol problem from me, and even his girlfriend. He told me he didn't sleep with her despite me, that he was just feeling lost and he made a stupid choice. I asked him why he couldn't have been honest with me before it came to this, and he told me he didn't feel like he could be honest with himself anymore. We cried together again, prayed together despite neither of us being religious, looked through family photo albums together. We discussed the road forward, and we agreed that the loss we both felt went far deeper than we thought. We decided on attending therapy together. We're going to look into support groups both for his drinking and other families dealing with loss. And now that he's without his girlfriend and I'm aware of the extent of his issues, I agreed to let him move back home with me, so I can make sure he attends his appointments and avoid alcohol, and hopefully so we can bond again, with the stipulation that any more violence and he's out the door. He asked me if I can ever forgive him, and I told him honestly that I couldn't, but he's still my son and I love him. And I reminded him of what his mother told him when he was a kid, that everyone messes up, it's what you do afterwards that makes the difference. I'll never forgive what he did, but if he learns from this and becomes a better person, then I can forget it and have a great relationship with him regardless. Aside from the fact my lip resembles the mouth of the vampires from Blade 2 for now, which has prompted concern from neighbors and friends, the past 2 days have been great. We've been talking, we cooked dinner together, we've gone on walks, and we're set to start looking into professional help this coming week. He's incredibly apologetic and has a tenderness I haven't seen from him in years. I have no illusions about the amount of work to be done nor how serious this incident was, but I'm feeling very optimistic about the future. I'm going against grain here, but I don't think letting a person like that move into your home is a good idea. Chances are you are going to regret it and it will be hard to get rid of him. I have a tendency to stand by my word, and I made it very clear to him that if another incident like this occurs, I'll have the police remove him. That said, I have faith in my son. Part of the blame lays on my shoulders for giving him too much credit at too young an age, thinking that because we always had a stable relationship that he would automatically handle the grief he was going through appropriately, or turn to me for help unprompted. I was there for him, but I took his honesty at face value, when I should have ensured his stability. The pain of the betrayal came mostly because I didn't understand why it happened. Now that I know, I can see a road to fixing it. By no means is him staying here unconditional, nor have I written off his choices. He needs to do a lot of work on himself, and I'm going to make sure he does. But assuming he puts in the effort, then so will I if it took a busted lip and some heartache to get my kid to become a better man and find happiness. I can endure that. Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Am I wrong for not housing my brother's mistress? Plus updates. Original post. My brother is 51 male, his mistress is 47 female, and niece 1 year old. Backstory: my brother had an affair on his wife while they have 5 kids. After quitting his job, and they moved in with his in-laws. My brother's mistress got pregnant, and she also decided to quit her job, got evicted from her previous rental, leaving my niece homeless. My brother's wife decided to try and work things out, and I ended up having a lot of family pressure to allow my brother's mistress and my niece move into my rental to try and create a stable environment for my niece. Eventually, I agreed to allow them to move in, with a couple of conditions. 1. Pay $500 each month. Most of it goes to the cost of the utilities. 2. No dogs. The mistress quickly agreed, since the rent is extremely cheap, and let us know that she will be starting her new job soon. The first month I received half the rent, then the last 5 months, nothing at all. It's become a burden for me to keep them there, and I am working additional hours to cover the expenses, while my brother's mistress never went to work. I have tried and tried to talk to them, trying to work things out, but it's going nowhere. So I gave his mistress a 30-day notice to move. During that time, I found out she is pregnant with baby number 2. My brother's wife kicked him out, and he moved into my rental with his mistress. They didn't leave after the 30 days, and they ignored my attempts to talk to them. So I served a 5-day notice, still no reply. So I went to the court and filed for an eviction. Since they were served, my phone has not stopped, as just about every family member has called upset. My dad told me to just finish it as he feels like my brother needs to man up and take care of his kids, both from his wife and mistress. And my dad told me to put my kids first. My mom, however, is livid. She told me that I would be responsible if my niece and the new baby will be taken away by CPS. She said my kids are old enough to understand mommy working extra hours in the name of supporting family. She feels like I should continue working overtime and paying for their expenses until the new baby arrives in 7 months. Am I the wrong for kicking my brother's pregnant mistress to the curb? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Wait, how pregnant is she? Baby is due in 7 months, so only 8 weeks pregnant. A lot of people barely know they are pregnant that early, and you only found out after you served 30 days notice. I mean, it could be true, but the timing is awfully suspicious. Is she really even pregnant? Not wrong regardless. This is all your brother's responsibility and not yours. You have already been beyond generous and got taken advantage of even at the deal you gave them. That's not okay, and you have every right to stop footing the bills for them. They are 2 adults who can figure things out for themselves. Mom is also the idiot. Why is it all your fault? If she is so concerned, then she can pay for them. Which is still a bad idea for her, but then no longer your problem. Yes, she is pregnant. My husband's theory is she got pregnant on purpose, knowing I wanted her to cover the expenses, meaning get a job or move. He thinks she did it to try and gain sympathy from our family. So wait, so they both quit their jobs and live with you without paying you or talking to you. And his wife and 5 kids live with your parents. What the heck is happening? His wife moved in with her parents. She became a stay-at-home mom when their daughter started having back-to-back seizures as the child needed constant care, however, with her parents' support. The wife is now working full-time at the front desk of a hotel. She is wanting to go to school in January to do respite care for sick children. They moved in with her parents when my brother decided he didn't want to work anymore. He has gone through jobs most of his life but always found a different one until this all began with his mistress. Depending on where you live, you might be stuck with them. In Wisconsin, here, I knew a lady whose daughter was stealing her credit cards, etc., and because mom had let her live there rent-free for more than 2 months, mom couldn't legally evict her all that easily. Or at least that is the story she told me. I'm not a lawyer. Where we are, it's considered month to month. A 30-day notice to end lease is required, then a 5-day notice if they fail to move before filing with the courts. If it all moves forward, they will have 72 hours to 30 days, depending on the judge. Is he the golden child by any chance? Not wrong, as you've done enough. They can all go live with mom if she feels that strongly about them being homeless. Yes, he is the golden child. Now for the updates. To answer a couple of questions, yes, she is pregnant at 47. I was there at the ER when the doctor told her. I also found out she wasn't using any birth control. As of right now, the court date is Monday morning. I should find out there if the judge will allow additional time for them to stay. In most cases, it's 72 hours, unless I drop it or allow more time. Lastly, my husband and I have talked about taking the babies into our home, just them. It's a major change for our kids, and we feel like it's something we need more time to decide. Update 2. My mom showed up to my house tonight. It's quiet the drive and she has been crying. I invited her in to have dinner with me and my kids. Then after my kids left with my husband trick-or-treating, she asked again to allow my brother to stay. She said that with their health, they couldn't allow them to stay in their home. I told her that I feel like I am enabling my brother to not take responsibility for all his children, and I told her I am tired of working non-stop for someone who is more than capable of working. She left sad. I will see my brother for the first time since he was served tomorrow at court. It will be interesting for sure. I am a little heartbroken, but it needs to happen. My hope is the judge doesn't extend the time they have in my rental. I feel like it will just make things harder. Third update. Okay, so I went to court today. My brother and his mistress didn't show up. The judge did a good job and she ruled in my favor. Now my brother has to be out by Saturday. If he is not, the constable can remove him and his mistress on Monday morning once the courts open up. Everything was going well until my husband asked the judge if we are responsible to notify my brother of the ruling since he was not there. The judge said we could pay for the constable to deliver a copy of the ruling today. I gave the constable all the info, including when both my brother and mistress would be home. After I left the courts, I got a call from my parents, both on the line. I told my mom the constable will deliver the court's ruling to my brother to give them the maximum time to prepare to move. My mom was just dead silent, while my dad burst into laughter. I was then informed the reason my brother and his mistress didn't come to court was they had outstanding warrants that I knew nothing about. So there is a good chance they will be arrested today. I can't enter the rental until next Monday. I will update then. That's if I am present when they go to remove my brother and his mistress. I was told today if they are not gone, they will have 15 minutes to gather whatever before they are removed by the police. Now for more comments before reading the last updates. Wait, they had warrants? Yes, they do. I had no idea they got in trouble. My mom knew and kept it from me. My dad, on the other hand, thinks this is deserved after all he has put his wife and kids through. I am not allowed to enter my rental until Monday, and I don't know if my brother will be out of jail by then. I feel kinda bad for feeling this way, but I hope I don't see him. I don't want any more drama. His wife asked if she could move into the rental since it's on the same street as my parents and her parents. I told her to let me think about it. She is an amazing person, but I just don't know if I want to rent to family anymore. It's been a complete nightmare. If you do rent to her, please make sure you have a solid renter's contract, and perhaps even look into a month-to-month lease instead of an annual. That way, if you decide to give her notice, she has the month to find a new place without complaint, because your lease is literally month-to-month at will. Now for the last update. Here is the update for this week. The constable and us showed up to the property. He told them they had 15 minutes to grab whatever and leave, and my brother went off. I sat in the car while my brother started threatening me. I have never seen him act so horrible, so I just sat in the car not replying. Then he just started smoking and not packing anything. His mistress was screaming from the house saying, "You told me I would never have to move. You told me your sister wouldn't evict me." My brother then slammed the door in the constable's face, locked it, and refused to leave. At that time, additional police were called out. My brother's response was yelling that he was going to knock me out, that he has a gun and will use it on me. Again, he has never treated me this way. So the police asked me to leave and go get lunch in hopes they could calm him down. Nope, it didn't work. They had to knock the front door in, and they gave his mistress 35 minutes to pack things. She didn't, she just sat in their car mad. We changed the locks and cleaned the place up. Then on Tuesday, I got a call from the constable saying they needed to get an inhaler. I am not required to give them medicine, but I am required to give them their identification. So I drove 4 hours back, loaded all medicines in a box, put all important papers, photos in another box, and told the constable I was ready. They showed up quickly. He handed them the boxes, and they had another meltdown, calling names and yelling more threats because they wanted to go into the house. I was told they set up secret cameras, and they were watching me, and no, I touched their stuff. The constable told them it was illegal to secretly record on private property, and they could go to jail for 2 to 10 years. My brother then started walking towards the constable in an aggressive manner, so I called the police. My brother told them to arrest me, but the police told him I wasn't the one going to jail. His mistress took the boxes and left while yelling. I know I have to see them again, but I am thinking about filling a restraining order against them. The police even recommended I do that. What the heck was the plan here? Let's just live here rent-free and bang, and pop out babies forever. Christ, I am not smart enough to have so many people stupider than I am. Drugs. My vote is on them taking substances. Cheats, gets mistress pregnant, stashes her away to reconcile, cheats and impregnated her again. Dude is just a walking bad decision. When my mom was alive, some extended family complained because she insisted on drawing up legal contracts for any requests they made, like borrowing money. Blah blah, but family, you know the drill. Only one family member ever agreed to mom's terms and paid her back per the contract. It made me realize that it's especially important to have a paper trail when dealing with the people I consider closest. My uncle would borrow money from family members all the time, especially my mother, because she was one of the most family people I've ever known. She'd get about half of it back before his excuses started. Then he'd start lying to her that he had paid more, and she'd eventually give up on it. Once I mediated between them, wrote receipts, kept tabs, made sure everything was written down. He got to paying half of it back, then started saying he had given money to my brother to give to her. Not to the person giving him receipts for it, but someone unrelated and knowingly unreliable. I tried to get her to take him to court over it because we had written documents and written receipts, but family and she let him off, again, for over $5,000. Be as hard as you can about your due diligence, but you also have to be willing to follow through on it. I love how the dad's response was just, finish him. Dad's laugh at the end was the cherry of this whole thing. Last story. Am I wrong for not wanting my ex's son at my Christmas? Trying to be concise. I was with my ex for about 7 years, never married, lived together the last 4, broke up 3 years ago. She has a 21-year-old son Shane who is now going to college in a town I have since moved to, that his parents do not live in, about 6-hour drive. We've moderately kept in touch since the breakup, mostly just when he reaches out to me. I would have preferred a clean break from both him and his mom, but have a hard time totally shutting people out. I have not even seen Shane in person since he was 18. Anyway, I got married last year and welcomed my first child 6 months ago. This will be my first Christmas with my wife and child. Shane was going to go visit where his mom lives now for Christmas, but due to a pending storm, it's uncertain if he will be able to travel there. So he called me last night and asked if he could spend Christmas with me. I was definitely caught off guard and told him that while it's good to hear from him, it will be my first Christmas as a whole family and would prefer to keep it to just us and maybe her parents who will stop by later. Shane was very upset, told me I was replacing him. I tried to reason with him that this is just what happens when adults move on in life. I said we could still keep in touch, but I wanted Christmas just with my family since it is our first one. He hung up and then later sent me a long text saying some not super nice things. My wife is glad I said no, but at the same time says she empathizes with how he feels and that I should apologize but not necessarily have him over, but would support me if that's what I want. Am I wrong for not wanting him to come over for Christmas? Edit to address common questions. Shane's mother and I were never married. Shane's father is active in his life, he just is often out of town. I had only met Shane a few times until he moved in during his high school years. He was very active in sports and extracurriculars, so he wasn't actually home that much for us to spend time together. Them moving in was supposed to be temporary after his mom got laid off, and it just kinda dragged into them staying. His mother was very adamant that Shane had a father, and she didn't want me to attempt to parent her kid. So while he lived at my house, I was basically an adult roommate. We got along well, but it was never a father-son type relationship. Now for the comments. No idiots here. I think everyone forgetting there's another person involved here, which is OP's new wife. If it's her plan to have Christmas with just her husband and child, it's OP's job to honor that. Plus, the kid's father is actively involved in his life. OP was never the stepfather, and it sounds like was less involved. I would be hesitant to invite someone into my home with a new wife and infant too. Yikes dude. He was your stepkid basically for 7 years. He's stranded for Christmas. Would it seriously hurt you if he came for Christmas? I am grossed out by this, not gonna lie. If virtually anyone I have a stable relationship of any kind with asked if they could come to my house for Christmas, I would say yes. Because it's freaking Christmas. You're the idiot. I understand the gist of what you're saying, but the kid was 11 when they got together 10 years ago. They broke up 3 years ago, when the kid would have been 18, and have kept moderately in touch while OP would have preferred a clean break. Maybe this sounds terrible to you, but OP wants to move on with his life, and this was neither a bio or stepchild of his, nor did he raise the kid from infancy only to abandon him. Sure, he could let the kid come over, but if it's someone he's only moderately been in contact with for years at this point, why is he the bad guy for continuing to move on from that part of his life by saying no? Horrible situation, but I say not wrong. Not wrong. An unbelievable number of people commenting you're the bad guy don't seem to have actually read the post. 1. OP did not take on a father role. He was explicitly told by Shane's mom she didn't want that. 2. Shane's father was still in his life, and regarded by him as his father. 3. They weren't married, not that important but people can't read. 4. Everyone crying that Shane has nowhere to go, will be left alone at Christmas, etc. OP states he could travel to spend Christmas with friends or family. 5. Lots are criticizing OP for letting the situation go on as long as it has, but then want him to double down and have him over for an awkward Christmas with a family he's no longer part of, and make it even more difficult to separate properly. Shaking my head. Yes. Also, why does everyone keep talking about a kid being left out? That's a 21-year-old adult, and it seems that they have never been close anyway. Oh, one more thing, I think it's rude to self-invite yourself. Let the other person know that you don't have any plans for that day and see if they invite you over. Not wrong, OP.